Welcome in to another edition of Gold and Black Radio. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. On the heels of a 28-10 homecoming loss to Nebraska, Purdue has already started to make some seismic changes off the field. On the field, they'll need to turn things around quickly as they face the daunting task of facing Wisconsin, a program that they haven't defeated since 2003. That goes back their last 17 tries. We'll get Tom Dienhart's thoughts on Purdue's precarious position entering the month of October. But first, a thank you to our sponsors that make today's Gold and Black Radio show possible, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler up. East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event, and the Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. Joining us now is Tom Dienhart, the analyst for goldandblack.com. And Tom, let's just go ahead and get right to it. In the wake of the Nebraska loss, of course, everyone knows by now the first big move of the season happens as Ryan Walters decides to move on from offensive coordinator Graham Harrell. What do you make of the move, and can it possibly breathe some life into this struggling offense? I guess things can't get worse for the Purdue offense, right?
That's one way to look at it, right? Did it have to be made, Derek Schultz? Yes, I think it had to be made. I'm not taking my lead from the message board crowd that's been aflame with wanting somebody's to be accountable for this struggling offense, but they're 1-3, my friend, and the September goes without saying did not unfold as expected. So now what? You can't continue this way and let the season totally unravel. You have to have some action, take some action, right, to try to right your listing ship, as I like to say. And the offense, let's be honest, has been the biggest issue among many issues for this team. Make no mistake about that. But the offense, you guys have seen it. Whoever's watching this podcast, Derek, you've seen it. Just the struggles, two big struggles: to stay on the field, can't convert third downs, too many 3-and-outs. And then the pass game, there's no consistency with the pass game, and even more vexing is there's no explosive plays in the pass game either. So they can run the ball a little bit. That's been about it. So they're 1-3, Derek. They got a tough month of October coming up, just 3 games. There's no home games on Saturday in September, if you can believe that, or October. So they had to do something to try to get this thing straightened out. Will it work, Derek? Nobody knows, right? But I got to think just a new voice and some new ideas has to help.
I get that the receiver room in particular has not had the best luck when it comes to injuries. But overall, Tom, Hudson Card finished last season really strong, and he was back, a senior quarterback. You bring back Devin Mockabee, Reggie Love comes over and is a veteran guy, and Max Clare. It's not like they don't have anybody on that side of the ball. Are you surprised at just how not only have they not even shifted this thing into neutral? I mean, it feels like the offense has been in reverse for the first month of the season.
38 points total the last 3 games. So there you go, right? Take away that 49-0 debut season opener against Indiana State, and things look a lot more bleak offensively. And I think everything in football, this, Derek, starts up front. On both sides of the ball, you're typically only as good as your lines. And to me, the offensive line's been a little bit of a disappointment. Let's be frank. They have gotten a little bit of push in the ground game. They are bigger. They are more physical, I think. And they do have more quality depth. But they've struggled to protect Hudson Card. It seems like he's under constant duress. Now, some of that could be, the type of scheme they're running, that should they roll Card out? Can they do some things to minimize maybe their weaknesses up front, to give Card a greater chance to succeed in the pocket or out of the pocket, whatever it may be? That's where you turn the page on the offensive coordinator. Maybe Jason Simmons has some new ideas. You can't ask guys to do what they can't do. You got to build around what they can do and be creative. And again, protecting Card has been an issue, Derek. And the receiving core, they're missing Jamal Edrun and C.J. Smith, but Smith hasn't even played, Derek. I don't really even know how good he is. Are we making too big of a deal out of his absence? I'm just throwing that out there. Edrun's played about a game and a half. So there you go. There's plenty of other guys that need to step up, and it hasn't happened. So, yeah, as with anything in life, Derek, there's always a lot of blame, or a little bit of blame that can be spread around to everybody.
What adds to my frustration, Tom, is that, and this may not be saying much, and maybe the results would have stayed the same, but I actually think the defense has given Purdue chances in the last 2 games, particularly in the first half. You go back to the Oregon State game, and they forced the 4-and-out on the first possession, and they only gave up 10 points on their own. Obviously, the pick six made it 17, right?
Yeah.
But they only gave up 10 points on their own in that first half against Oregon State. And then against Nebraska, the first half, if the offense even did anything, and I'm talking just a couple of field goal drives, maybe we're talking about things playing out differently in the second half. And it just feels like, the defense can put up a fight for a bit, but at some point, the water starts coming in through the walls, right? And things start to sink because they're just this defense. And we talked about it in the preseason, Tom. It's not built to win you the game. And unfortunately, it's felt like it's been kind of a one-sided affair when it comes to that.
Yeah, you're talking about complementary football, which has sort of become a buzzword whenever you're talking to the Purdue coaches. We want to play complementary football, Derek. And I think that's a nod to the offense. They have to do their part by staying on the field with some sustained drives. And to your point, Derek, you're right. The defense, going back the last 2 weeks, has done enough to keep that team or keep the team in the games. They bowed their back a few times. You referenced that first series for Oregon State. Will Help broke up a fourth down pass. And the defense last week, 0-0 at halftime. Special teams, Derek, steps up a couple blocked field goals to do their part. And the offense is the one leg in the three-legged table that's really been inconsistent. So, the defense is both it's back at times, and I think they just get worn down, Derek. I think that's part of it. I don't make excuses for anybody, but I think they get worn down. So they're trying to, Derek. How about last week, the wrinkle where they have Thieneman playing closer to the line? I think that was done in part because Antonio Stevens was out, but I think they got some mojo from that, some energy too. And we saw KJ playing up front a little bit more often. I do think that was largely because CJ Madden's out. But again, let's be honest, that's his best position. The Purdue defense is better when number 4 is coming off the edge chasing quarterbacks, I think.
Yeah, no question about that. Normally, I wouldn't ask this question on October 1st because October 1st still feels early. But with where this team is right now, Tom, and the slate that still lies ahead here, I mean, we haven't even gotten into the trip to Madison, which has been a house of horrors for them for decades. Is this season still salvageable in your eyes?
It's going to be tough. Honestly, I'd be lying if I thought this team could get to 6 wins. Yeah. They're 1-3, Derek. They got it. This is by my liberal arts education math. They need to go 5-3 the rest of the way. We know the schedule, right? At Wisconsin, at Illinois, home to Oregon. And then they still got Penn State, Ohio State, games at Michigan State, and a finale at now suddenly plucky Indiana. I mean, if you can look in the mirror and see 5 wins out of those last 8 games, God bless you. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe I'm being too negative and pessimistic. Sometimes people shout me down for even bringing up a bowl game. But that's still a possibility, right? I think that's the point. It's still a possibility. That's why this change had to take place now before everything totally unraveled in October, potentially unraveled in October.
Yeah, and you hope to see Purdue just provide some reasons for hope because not all 1-3s are created equal, right? Sometimes you could be off to a 1-3 start and there can be a lot of things that you can point to and say, okay, this, that, and that happened, or we've still got this, that, and that coming up. And just looking at the schedule and looking so far, and injuries have played a factor. I get it, but I think what Purdue fans are hoping for is for reasons to hope. Yeah. And maybe this offensive coordinator change will provide some of those here moving forward, even if it doesn't ultimately result in a win coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, we all want hope in life, and that's what this certainly gives, an element of hope, right? There's going to be some change. It's not going to be a radical change, right? You can't reinvent your offense on October 1st. That's why they had to stay in-house for this hire, Derek. Ryan Walters said he had some guys reaching out to him from outside the program. It really wasn't realistic to bring anybody in just because they wouldn't be familiar with the terminology and the personnel. Honestly, there weren't a lot of real viable options on this staff to call plays, for really being frank here. Jason Simmons was probably as good of options as they could have. I talked to some high school coaches in Indianapolis recently who coached with him and against him. I've gotten to know Jason a little bit through training camp too. Just a great guy. I know he's revered in that locker room, and he's well liked. He's respected too, and he's got a way with players, I'm told too. And he's got his ideas. I'm sure he's going to have his tweaks, Derek. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe them try to rely on the ground game a little bit more, to be honest with you. Not that that's a major tweak, but some way to really try to focus on and maybe feature Devin Mockady and build off that. And then, but still, it's going to come down to Hudson Card coming alive too. If they really want to try to turn this thing around, Hudson Card has to come around here. He has to be protected better, and these receivers have to step up. But I think it would start with the foundation around that ground game, and Devin Mockabee would be my thought.
Yeah, and something that doesn't need a lot of it's a little more turnkey, right? Than the rest of, he's entering a house right now that needs to renovate the kitchen and all 3 bedrooms and both bathrooms. Yeah. But at least, the man cave, the den actually looks like it's in decent shape, and maybe that can be the running back room in this failed analogy that I just tried to throw out on the slide on the show. We'll talk a little bit of Wisconsin here in just a second, but first I want to tell you about our friends at Sand Valley Resort. You can celebrate all that the wilderness provides this fall and winter at Sand Valley. Experience everything from Thanksgiving dinner, curling and ice hockey, to ice fishing and snowshoeing, and even the restorative benefits of a guided cold plunge in the frozen lakes. Start planning your next winter getaway by visiting sandvalleypursuits.com. Tom, what's the latest on injuries and how Purdue's health situation is heading to Madison?
I think I need a cold plunge, Derek.
Don't we all?
We didn't get a chance to really quiz Ryan on all his injuries yesterday with a flurry of questions about the coordinator change. He did say Kydron Jenkins, he left that game Saturday with a shoulder issue. He said he's going to be okay. Expect to see him on the field, which is good news, obviously. The 2 receivers, forget CJ Smith. Maybe a slight chance for Jamal Edgerrin, but we were initially told that was going to be 3 to 4 weeks. So we're still in that 3 to 4 week window. So I would say probably a nix on him. Jaden Dixon-DeVille, I think we'll see again. Of course, the junior college receiver who didn't play last week. CJ Madden, the rush in from Georgia, he's out for the year. He's got an issue with his left leg. And otherwise, I think those were the key guys. And the one guy I do not know about that I'm trying to get some info is Mo Amonade, the number 92, the West Lafayette nose tackle, was a key player. He went down in that game in the second half, and there may be something to it, Derek. So I need to check on Mo. I can only speculate, but again, his status is up in the air. Again, that would be a significant blow because him and Cole Brevard are a real nice combination nose tackle.
Wisconsin comes in not quite in a similar position as Purdue, but certainly I think they've got to be feeling like maybe their season's starting to get away here. The Alabama loss is one thing, but to get skunked in the second half by USC 28-0, I think you and I would both agree, Tom, that's a good USC team. I don't think it's a great one. And now with their quarterback situation, they had to go back to Braden Locke, and they're 1-6 in his starts dating back to last season. I think Wisconsin has to be looking at Saturday's game, and coming up here, they've got Northwestern as well, kind of the now or never portion of their season too, similar to where we are right now with Purdue.
Yeah, I think their fan base has to be, they're still a little indifferent, I think, about the Luke Fickell era, right? Yeah. Last year it wasn't tremendous, and he came in, Derek, and he took away that Wisconsin offensive identity that had been forged going back to when Barry Alvarez got there in 1990. You always knew what you're going to get when you played the Badgers, right? That gigantic offensive line, those good running, tough running back, and they're going to punch you in the nose, man, and wear you out. And they were underrated at defensively as well. And if they brought in a guy named Phil Longo to run the offense, it's a little bit more has to spread principles and whatnot. And it really has not been a smooth transition through 2 years. And you talked about the quarterback injury right out of the chute for them too. They're already playing their backup. So, yeah, they've got plenty of questions circulating in Madison. They've been pushed down the food chain in the Big Ten. That has to rankle them. And they're desperate. They're hungry, Derek. They want to get back on the winning track and take out their frustrations. And, boy, one team they've taken their frustrations out on, Derek, has been the Purdue Boilermakers. 17 losses in a row. The last Purdue win, Derek, was in 2003 in Madison. Where was Derek Schultz in 2003?
Yeah, I was a junior in college, and just like when you're a junior in college, like the losing streak, I had just turned old enough to drink. Legally drink. So
good memory for you.
21-year losing skid and 21-year-old me back in that day. And of course, this all started, Tom, not to bring up a sore subject, but the epic Kyle Orton fumble, college game day visit, Purdue's 5-0, and really a moment that, and I understand Jeff Brom and even Joe Tiller in the later years, had some teams that went to bowl games and won bowl games. But for the most part, it's a moment that the program has really never fully recovered from. Am I right in saying that?
Well, I think you're right. That's not an understatement or an overstatement, I should say. That's sort of that the beginning of the end, if you will. Mm-hmm. And they've never really crawled out of that hole. The last 4 years, the Joe Tiller era, were largely a mixed bag. Really weren't that great, honestly. Motor City Bowl trips, beating Central Michigan and whatnot. And then, of course, I don't want to chronicle the Danny Hope and Daryl Hazel eras. Yeah. And then, of course, Brom flashed a little bit of light there, got him to 500 for a 5-year period or so. And yeah, but they've never ascended that level. Tiller got him his first 8 years. And you're right. It's a sore spot with Purdue fans. And they'll never forget that game. Of course, College Game Day was on campus that weekend. You talked about being 5-0. Kyle Orton was probably the early season Heisman favorite too. And it's been tough. Purdue hasn't beaten Wisconsin at West Lafayette since 1997. So think about that. And I asked Winston Berglund today at practice. I go, Winston, what year were you born? It was 2005. So they got guys on the team now that have been born that have never even seen Purdue beat these guys. So they don't need us to remind them, Derek. I think they know the ugly history here, and everybody would love to put it behind them, I'm sure, if you're a Purdue fan.
It's not been pretty, but hopefully, all it takes is one to bust that streak. So we'll see if it ends up coming up here on Saturday. Tom, we'll talk to you again on Friday for Golden Black Radio, and keep up the great work over there at goldenblack.com. Appreciate it as always.
You too, Derek. Thank you, buddy.
That's our buddy Tom Dienhart, and we'll wrap up on Golden Black Radio for this Tuesday edition with a final thank you to our sponsors, Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple & Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette, the Whitaker Inn, this Midwestern oasis, perfect for a relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway, escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn, and Sand Valley Resort. Celebrate all that the wilderness provides this fall and winter at Sand Valley. Start planning your next winter getaway by visiting sandvalleypursuits.com. And of course, as always, don't forget to sign up to become a member for Tom's work, for Brian Newbert's columns, for Carm on the Saturday simulcast, for Alan and all of his historical facts that come out of completely nowhere. All of the best Purdue coverage right here at goldenblack.com. But until Friday, I'm Derek Schultz. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time here on Gold and Black Radio.